What's going on, everybody? My name is Mel. Welcome to Life Coaching by Mel. Here at Life Coaching by Mel, we speak truth. I'm not referring to my truth or your truth. I'm referring to the Lord's truth as I get a call here going live. But we decline that call. But guys, I really appreciate you guys for being here today. Have an amazing topic for you. If you're new to the channel, feel free to hit that subscribe button, like button, hit the comment section. Let me know what you think about this particular topic. When I start this channel, I want to bring authentic conversations to the forefront. I want to be able to allow people to come on to share their stories authentically and stories that affect the home and affect the family. So it's exactly what we're going to do today. I have my friend, Stacy, who's joining me to have an amazing conversation about parental alienation. Stacy, how's it going for you?
Everything's good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, doing wonderful. Now, me and Stacey go way back. We've been on these YouTube streets and the social media streets for a while, and
Yep.
we've been just helping each other and supporting each other for a while. And I appreciate her and her husband, and it's just been a great connection. And you've recently commented on one of my posts on TikTok there, talking about parental alienation. You shared your story with me a little bit, and I thought it'd be great, and we thought it'd be great to have you on and discuss it. So, Stacey, what I want to do is just open up the floor just a little bit. Uh, you shared, like I said, your story with me. I just want you to share it with the people, and we'll just take it from there. How's that sound?
All right.
All
Sounds
right,
good.
floor is yours.
Okay. Um so the discussion was about parental alienation when I came across your video, and it struck me because I could definitely relate to it. Um my story is more less my mother and father, and I don't even remember them being together. I think they broke up when my mom was pregnant with me. But long story short, he wasn't around a lot during my childhood. And my mom, when I would ask her, how come he's not around, I would usually get a sarcastic answer like, well, out of sight, out of mind. He's not thinking about you unless you're around. Um, we would go to visit him. He lived in another city. We would go and visit him, and my family there, they would be excited to see me, and he would. And it just, what my mom was saying didn't always line up, I felt. But then I didn't hear from him. So it was like, well, what she's saying has to be kind of true. Um, it wasn't until I got older where I started questioning certain things. Um, and when I turned 18, I wanted to get to know my father. My mom, she would say little things here and there, but it was more or less, well, you're grown now. So me and my dad, we tried to get to know each other the best that we could, but it was always one of those things where we would have a conversation, but it sounds like I was talking to maybe a neighbor. Like it never got
Yeah,
to where I felt comfortable.
yeah.
So, um, but throughout the years, I would have surgeries like on my ankle, and I would call my dad. There was one incident where I did have ankle surgery, and my dad came, and my mom was in the waiting room. She was irritated that he was there, but she didn't make a big fuss out of it. It wasn't until I was in my 30s and I was having my first child, and I called my dad and said, I'm going to have your grandbaby. He comes to my city. And the minute he came into the room, everything changed. The energy, my mom saying little mean, sarcastic things to him, starting little uh, arguments and saying, you're acting like you've been here all along, like you deserve to be here. And I'm thinking to myself, maybe that's so, but right now it's not the time. I just want my parents here. I'm fortunate enough to be in my mid 30s and have two parents that's alive at this point. And, I just wanted to have a baby, but my mom didn't like that. She, took that personally, and she stopped speaking to me for quite some time after my daughter was born. And it was because I wanted my father involved. So,
Man.
um, I think after I had my daughter, my dad, he actually asked me, do you want me to kind of not come around for a little while so your mom won't be upset? And I didn't even think of that as an option, because I felt like, well, why should I have to pick? Like, I just had a baby. I didn't even choose you to be my father. Like, this was all my mom's choosing, and I'm getting the brunt of it for just existing and wanting you to be part of my life because this is who she chose to be my father. And so I think the stress of all of that, right after having a baby, I noticed that there were like spots coming out here, and it's normal for women to lose hair after having a baby, but this spot just continued to like recede back further and further. So one day I just took the clippers because the doctor told me it was just postpartum hair loss. So I was like, well, it's coming out anyway, it'll grow back. I took the clippers off. I took the clippers out and I cut my hair, and that was the last time I saw it. That was 7 years ago. I went to the doctor and they said that I had low iron, but the main question was, were you stressed out? And I thought that was a weird question because I'm like, well, yeah, everybody's a little stressed, but they don't lose their hair. But apparently, when you are very stressed out, you can kick your system into, what do they say, your autoimmune.
Yeah.
It can trigger your immune system. And whatever it is in my genetic makeup, stress or like, deep stress was me trying to navigate having a new baby with the fact that I don't have my mom to guide me there, or me having the stress of hearing people saying you have to keep an eye on the baby, you want to make sure, because I'm trying to prevent SIDS. There's like a lot of things going through my mind when I'm having postpartum depression, and on top of it I'm like, my mom is mad at me, did I do something wrong? And I really think that kind of helped kick my stress up a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to thank you first off for sharing that. I want to mention, how tough that must have been to experience, and how tough it may even to relive it and share it at the moment. And I just want to appreciate your courage, first off to share that. Do you mind if I ask a couple follow up
Yeah.
questions? So the dynamic that you're explaining there regarding how your mom responded to your dad being there, it's like she totally just vanished from always, I guess, always being there and always, uh, being the parent that you can rely upon, to now that the other parent is now available, is totally gone. What was the relationship like, beyond uh, what she said about him? What was you guys' relationship like prior to that moment?
Honestly, the best way I can describe the relationship that me and my mom had, I kind of feel like she was my first bully. I was kind of easy to say things to because I would believe it. I was very gullible. And I think me and my mom were very opposite. In high school, my mom was the skinny, pretty girl that all the men wanted. In high school, I was the fat girl with the hairy face because I had hormone issues. So
Hmm.
I think in some ways, subconsciously, she kind of resented that about me. Like, why are you like this? I had friends that were pretty, and they still are, but my mom would subtly make sure I knew that. Like, oh, they're very pretty. And I'm like, well, I'm not. But so we always kind of had like a shaky relationship. I've been more sensitive. She was just more stern on things. So I guess looking back, it should not have been surprising. It's just she had never went to that extreme to actually stop speaking to me. And so that was new.
Yeah. When you say the term first bully, I'll be honest, the reason I'm doing this type of content now is because I believe that so many of us can relate to that. When I say us, I'm
Yeah.
referring to the black community. I know it's not exclusive to the black community. I'm not saying that at all, but it is a almost like a epidemic that's happened in our community, that people are now starting to speak up and say, "Hey, I love my mother, but she wasn't the best person,
Mhm.
and she didn't treat me the best." Uh, in that line of thinking, what do you think that comes from? That regardless, well, the way it was prior to now, regardless of what mothers did, we were. It seems like people talked about them in such a high regard, and now they're starting to tell the truth of, hey, I love her, but she wasn't the best person. Or do you think that came from that, where we had to speak about them in high regard?
I think it really came from their parents. Like no matter what. I remember when I was little talking to my mom, she says, "Don't roll your eyes." I didn't even know what rolling eyes was because I'm like, I know I wasn't rolling my eyes. I was trying to stay perfectly still. Like you have to be. um, but honestly, I do think it's from their generation, and like everybody knows, it's probably a semblance of slavery passed down to us to have some kind of domination or control. Like I am the person that pays the bills. You don't ask me anything, you know. Um, and then also I can show my mom some grace to know that she was a single mom, you know, even if she was she could have been the one that completely kept my dad away. Now that I am a parent, my husband could not. You can't keep me away from my kids. There's nothing he could say or do to keep me away. So that's where I kind of would side eye my dad, like, well, you know, you knew you had a child too. But I do think about that. My mom was a full-time, she was a full-time worker. She worked overnights, like 5 days a week. She slept a lot. So I didn't see her a lot because she was at work or she was sleeping. So I understand that there was a lot of pressure on a lot of our parents. And I think that because of that, sometimes when you're stressed out, the real you is just not there when you're tired. So that's the grace that I can show her. But I think mental health is very important, and I'm glad that our generation and the generations after us is starting to wake up to that. There's
Yeah.
a lot of things that my mom did and said that I would like to do differently with my children because I don't want them to experience or feel about me in any kind of way. Like I feel like my mother doesn't like me, and I've said that to her, and I could tell that kind of bothers her, but I do feel that, you know, I don't ever want my kids to feel that way, you know,
Yeah.
not for something that I could change within me, you know. But I definitely think that it's a mental health thing in our community that needs to be looked at.
Yeah. You mentioned you don't believe your mother likes you, and you also mentioned previously that your dad could have fought harder, you
Hmm.
know, but yet once your dad was in your life actively, he even took back was willing to take the back seat and say, "Hey, if it means your mother coming back around, do I need to step back?" You know,
Hmm.
so it seems like a complete opposite reaction of how they're choosing to treat you.
Yeah.
When you spoke to your dad and about what happened, what was his side of the story?
You know, that is actually one of the biggest mysteries. It's like they're both hush hush about it. So the only thing that I can gather is they were together. It didn't work out. Um, my mom went on with someone else, and he went on with someone else. I don't know what happened in between. Like nobody said anything. I'm just like, what? So I'm just like in the middle, just here.
Yeah. So what about that dynamic or the relationship that they had? What about that do you believe your mother was like, I don't want no part of it. I don't want any part of you or my new grandchild if that man is going to be involved.
You saying what might have triggered, might like would
Right.
have made her control,
Mhm.
honestly, because you can't change the past. And here at that point, I was 33. And it's just like, you're still mad from something that happened in 84. It's just, you know, I honestly think it's control. And if everything had gone her way, though everybody would have been unhappy, but she would have been happy.
Mm. Ooh, I don't know. I felt some energy on that because it seems like that's the case with
Yeah.
a lot of times with mothers is their happiness is centered around their control. You know, their
Hmm.
happiness is centered around it being the way they want, and if they can't have it the way they want, they're willing to not be involved at all.
Hmm.
one thing you haven't shared yet, and if you aren't comfortable sharing this, please let me know. But you did tell me before that your father, unfortunately, is no longer with us.
Mhm.
Uh, do you mind going into just how that whole transition took place and how that may have affected you at this point?
Um, well, I could tell you a miraculous story that actually happened out of that. So my son was born. This was back in 2020, and the I had so many plans when I was pregnant with my son. I wanted to have the big baby shower, and I wanted to, take some pictures. But then 2020, so we couldn't do a
Yeah.
lot of that. So all through my pregnancy, my dad would call and check on me, and I would tell him, like, I want to come up and come see you, but everybody was scared of COVID at this point. So he's like, no, you're pregnant, stay home. And so I ended up having my son, and my dad still had not seen my son. Now, my dad was a Jehovah's Witness, so I'm somebody that celebrates holidays, so I'm like, well, we still kind of like we talk to each other, and it's still kind of odd. But I'm like, I want to do something for him because I've never gotten him a Father's Day gift, a birthday gift, because he didn't celebrate, and I couldn't think of any other reasons. But I'm like, I guess let me just make him something. So I made him a cup with my kids on it and my sister's kids on it, and I sent it to him. Well, that prompted him to come visit. He just popped up on me one Sunday. The Sunday that he popped up on me, his stomach was full of fluid, and his face, he just looked like he aged maybe 5 years. I used to work in the medical field. I was a tech, but there's things that I know that I don't know why I didn't say it to him. I didn't think about it. But my dad was that type of person where if he was sick, he would tell you he was sick, but then he would change the subject because he didn't want you to dwell on feeling sorry for him. Like, okay, we're not talking about me anymore. How are you? And he was good at that. So I was like, oh, well, I'm fine, actually. He wanted to keep the focus on, I'm meeting my grandson for the first time. So I'm like, well,
Mhm.
maybe he'll be okay. He was telling me, yeah, I have a doctor's appointment in 2 weeks, and I'm gonna get these compression socks. And I'm thinking, compression socks for with your stomach. But for some reason, I don't know, it was like something was just keeping me from saying more, being concerned. I almost think of maybe that was his time to go. But before he left, I remember a little voice saying, tell him that you love him. I didn't say it because it was just so, like, I did love him, but we didn't talk that way because we were still kind of like neighbors.
Yeah.
But when he left, I kept thinking about that. So I called him when he got home, and then I said, and I felt better for some reason. Like I felt like something released, and I think nothing else of it. And my dad was gone maybe 3 weeks exactly later. He had congestive heart failure, so that what I was seeing in his stomach was actually fluid. But I think the miraculous thing was, the first thing he said when he was holding my son was, can you take a picture of us? I'm like, oh, sure. I'm so glad he said that because he was gone 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
But I did hear that my mom has apologized, not to me, but things that, she's talked to another family member and said that she does wish she didn't step in between our getting to know each other. But she
Mm.
didn't say it to me. I mean, because you can't do anything about it now. I'm like, I forgive you, but yeah, good timing. Yeah, but yeah, he's been gone since 2020, and I say that I carry that because I'm a spiritual person. I still talk to my dad, but I I guess I'm upset more because when it comes to women, like I was talking to you earlier, I've always tried to befriend women. Every time I would hear a woman say, I don't want females around me, I don't want female friends, I'm like, no, we need to unite better than this because me and my mom don't have that unification. I want to unite us. And I kind of feel like, in some ways, that women almost kept my dad from me because it was like my mom, and then I have an older sister that he actually raised. It wasn't her fault that he raised her and not me, but you know, me and her, we're not that close. We tried. My stepmother, after my dad died, she didn't even like let me know if there's anything I could have of his. So it's just like, why is there always a woman blocking me? And I'm still trying to get along with y'all. But those are just some things I thought about after too, in parallels
Yeah.
with my mom.
Yeah. And so sorry, for your loss of your dad. And do want to say, because you mentioned there, there's nothing you can do about, certain things at this point. And you mentioned your mom has had that conversation of forgiveness or apologize, I'm sorry, to others in the family. How much of you wants their apology directly from her?
Yeah, I think I, I think because I can sit back and just kind of show people grace and think about their life path and things like that, I can be like, you know what? It is what it is. If we can't do anything about it now, I just kind of use this space now moving forward to take lessons in my life, even things that I feel weren't exactly my fault, to kind of move forward and teach. I don't even know how I would take that apology, like, because my mom doesn't apologize, so it'd almost be weird. She'd probably start to apologize, like, "What are you doing? Stop that! This is weird," because we don't have that kind of relationship.
Right. Man, that's yet another thing we have in common, Stacy. I can count on one hand the apologies I received from my mother. Uh, but let's talk about the reconciliation, because you said now that you and your mom are on speaking terms. Tell us a little bit how that came about.
Well, she did eventually call me. I want to say maybe 3-4 months after that incident. Um, but it's funny because the first thing she said was, "I'm not mad at you." And at that point, my hair is falling out. I don't care who's mad at me.
Yeah.
I don't care. But that was how she started it off. But I I feel like when I was, and I'm going to say the word hypnotized, because there
Mm.
was a long time that I put my mom on such a high pedestal to the point where my friends would come around. We're in our 30s and they would say a cuss word. And I'm like, my mother is right there. Don't you say that. And they're like, it wasn't even a bad cuss word. But my mom is there. And my mom was probably satisfied with me doing things like that. But I noticed I was doing it really for her approval. So our relationship is not that now, because I kind of consider that part of me is when I was younger. Well, now I'm 40. So you're not going to get that. I'm not going to break my back trying to make anybody happy. So
Yeah.
um, I would say, ironically enough, me and my mom's relationship turned into the very relationship me and my dad had. It's like we're neighbors. Like,
Mm.
there's certain things I don't feel comfortable talking to my mom about. I kind of feel like, even though I don't look the same like I did in high school. I was a little heavier then, and then of course I had a beard and I don't have no hair now. But um, I think how I am, my mom, we're different. Like, I'm spiritual. That stuff sounds crazy to my mom, and so we're kind of like neighbors. It's almost full circle. Came back to me having the same kind of relationship I had with my dad.
Yeah. It's funny how that works. She was fighting so hard to maintain a relationship,
Mm,
whether that be authentic or not. But she
yeah.
was fighting so hard, and now it's just a total different dynamic. And how does
Mm.
that make you feel, knowing that it is where it is right now?
I think it's a defense mechanism, honestly, because I can tell you, oh, it doesn't bother me, I don't care, but I know there's like this little tinge in me when I say that, like, a small part of you does. You wish it could be different, but I'm like, I'm open to it being different. I've always been open to it being different, but I can't force her to look at it that way. So I'm okay with it. I just, now I look at my daughter and I'm like, well, we're gonna have a good relationship. I mean, I'm not saying we'll be best friends, and we might have two different personalities, but she'll know that I love her. Even if I fall out with her father, that's your dad. Because of him, you. So
Yeah.
I'll always, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely love that. Let's talk a little bit about alopecia and just hair loss overall. Because I did look it up, and I think Jada Pinkett has made alopecia of just a, a viral term, I guess, over the
Mhm.
last couple of years.
I'm mad at her
But
for
so
that. Hmm. Yeah.
I get it. So I wanted to look it up just to make sure that I was on the right step with it, and it goes in line with what you said. So, because it says alopecia is a condition that causes hair loss. It can be caused by autoimmune disorders, genetic factors, lifestyle factors, or psychological factors, which
Mhm.
I was not aware of. And
Yeah.
so, tell us about alopecia. And you mentioned before how those psychological factors have come to play for you. Just give us an overall, a, overall look into your journey of that.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say something very strange first. I didn't know what alopecia was at all. I, and the time that I I remember hearing about it before I even had it, there was a maybe a show, it could have been Dr. Phil or something like that. And there was a woman on there that had it, but she had like some hair still, so it was like patches. And I'm like, why don't she just cut that off? Why? Ew, that looks gross. And like I was making comments like that, like, oh my gosh, why did that? But so once it happened to me, my thinking was, oh my gosh, people are gonna say that's gross, and because I'm thinking that if I looked at it that way, but no, it wasn't like that at all. Everybody was like, girl, but so I didn't know much about it. So when the doctor said I was just having postpartum hair loss, I assumed, well, maybe mine is different because everybody else's is coming out just a little. Mine's. But I Jada Pinkett really did shine a light on it because that's when people started asking a lot of questions about it. But I will say that I was okay with being bald headed. The issue with me was my eyelashes went, my eyebrows went, my body hair all together went. So that was something new. It was a lot of things that I had to get used to. Like we need nose hairs. I didn't realize how badly we needed nose hairs till I went for a walk and a few flies, made their way in my nose.
Oh
So
wow.
yep, and in your
Man.
eyes. So when I sweat, I have no eyebrows to kind of stop it.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of things that um go on with alopecia, but I didn't talk so much. I didn't forgot your question, Mel.
No, it was just your overall journey. You're spot on with it because you're filling me in because I had no clue. I mean, you would never think that those hairs are important, and we
Yeah,
fight so hard to get rid of those hairs,
right.
and
And that's the thing that I tell people. The funny thing is, like, before all of this, my highest weight, I was like 335 pounds at one point, and I had polycystic ovarian syndrome, which caused me to have facial hair. Yeah, I have facial hair. I had a lot of body hair, and to go from being big with all that hair and then I lost weight and lost all my hair, it was just like, I can't believe it. I used to make a
Mm.
wish and say I wish I was skinny and I didn't have a beard, and I did not mean this, but not what I asked for.
What they say, be careful what you ask for.
That's why I tell people I am living proof of that.
Well, I love it. I love it how you take it in stride, and I think that's a more than anything an inspiring thing because so many people, man, I come across even with the content I do, and people reaching out for coaching, just are so in such despair based on the things that they are experiencing and the things that they believe maybe God did to them or just the short straw that they drew in life. What has brought just a sense of joy that you have, even though this is can be viewed upon by many as a hardship?
Because feeling in that low place of like there was a place where I was saying, gosh, my husband doesn't deserve to have a wife that looks like this. Like, this wasn't his fault that this happened, and this has to be embarrassing for him. And he's not said any of that. I started finding that being in that place is so much work. It's so much harder. And I'm not saying that I'm all happy all the time, but in the beginning, it was just a miserable place because there were people, oh, you're still pretty. Oh, you have the right head shape for it. But my thing was, thank you, but this is a loss. This is a loss. I've never been bald a day in my life. So for people to, oh, you'll be okay. At least you don't have to go to the salon anymore. But I want to go to the salon. Like, this is, I'm a new person now. I have this new life that I have to embrace, and nobody else around me has this issue. I met one person, and I was 6 years ago, that had the kind of alopecia that I had. So I felt very alone and very dismissed when I would try to talk to people about it. And then one day, I think I prayed about it, and I had this thought in my head, like, if I'm going to be bald and it's never going to come back, then I'm going to be Wakanda. Why I'm be sad about it? I'm tired of being sad. Wakanda. Like, I just everything.
Right.
And then I noticed with me feeling like that, people started wanting to ask questions and wanting to get to know me and things like that. And, I'm never offended. There's people, there's something, a funny interaction I had with someone. This guy used to work at this cafe, and he came in and he goes, I've been meaning to talk to you about something. Can you come over? We talk on the side a minute. I'm like, yeah. He goes, now, I want to say you're brave because I don't go to the doctor. The last time I got my prostate checked, now I'm looking at him like, now wait. There's two things here. So I know you're bringing up cancer, but are you calling me a man? Like, wait. He's like, no. I'm like, you can't be starting your stories off like that. What are you getting at? He was like, well, I just want to know how long you were in chemo. And I'm like, definitely not in chemo. So I had to explain alopecia to him. But that's usually the first thing people think is, I'm going through some kind of chemo or something. So I always have to teach people that. But otherwise, the sad place I was in, a lot of people a lot of my friends always say, one thing, like, God has done a lot of things, but God really, he sent me, like, there's people that can't even say they have 2 friends. I have 6 best friends. I can't pick a favorite. I have 6 of them. Like, I don't know how lucky I got there, but they got me through it. So
yeah,
that helped. I had a good support system.
That's so awesome. Man, that's brings me joy to hear you say that for sure. I just got to ask out of curiosity though, because I brought it up and you responded. What was it that you were mad about with Jada? What made you mad about Jada?
Oh, okay. So I don't know her medical history because I don't know her at all. But after doing some research and seeing some videos, there's a doctor on YouTube who has the same kind of alopecia that I have. And he was describing how when alopecia happens, it usually starts off like a circle in your scalp. Like they come out in circly patches. Well, with Jada Pinkett, she's had facelifts. They have to cut here. The hair won't grow back over a scar. Okay, so it's like,
oh my God.
Yeah, it's alopecia, I guess, if the hair won't grow back, but it's not alopecia in the way, that it just kind of happens.
Oh my goodness.
So that was my only thing with Jada. I'm like, you're, and now she has hair, and they actually have prescriptions where people can grow their hair back. But so I'm just like, I kind of feel like she milked that to be a victim. And I'm like, there are really people that have this, like, quit playing, lady. But then again, I could be wrong. She probably had it. It's just suspicious to me.
Yes, it's very suspicious. I'll venture to say you're spot on, because it just seems so. So what you're saying, just to be sure I'm tracking, she more than likely got her hair cut for the scars of her facelift, and that didn't grow back.
Yeah,
and then she just cut it all off to match what the scars were.
Yeah.
Wow,
that's what I'm thinking.
That makes sense. That sounds like something she would do. But anyway,
she wasn't clean bald either. Like, even at the show where Will slapped Chris, it was like, well, I mean, I still see some hair. Like, so I was like, okay. But the thing that made me mad was I was still at that point around that time where I was kind of still an introverted baldy. And then it was like everybody was staring at me like, oh, there's somebody with it. Like, they had never seen one before. And now all of a sudden, because of her and Will, Now everybody, you have alopecia. Yes, I have alopecia. Oh my god. Yeah, I was irritated with them after that.
I can imagine. I can definitely imagine. So I want to ask, and to kind of bring this all together, in what ways could you see? Just follow me here for a second. I'm kind of weird on certain things. Is there any ways that you can correlate your experience of what you experienced with your parents and what you have experienced with the alopecia? Just any type of heartbreak or any things that you have experienced that you can see those two worlds colliding, I guess.
Oh man, I have to think of that. Was actually um are almost like things happening for a reason or things lining up in life. Some
Yeah.
if I didn't have the parents that I had, I know I wouldn't be this way. Um my I needed them to be this way because I honestly feel like if they were any different, and maybe if I was slightly any different, I don't think I'd be able to maintain things that has happened to me. Because even though, yeah, I had alopecia, the relationship with my mom, the relationship with my dad, and then him passing away, and like I told you, now I have 2 children, both of them have autism, so I have to. Maybe it's a defense mechanism for my sanity. I have to kind of hold it together. So things that would probably bother the average person, like as far as past things or the things that I'm going through now or with my alopecia, I know how to minimize them now. Like if it's important, I'll deal with it. But if it's something where it's just like, it's gonna be okay, just live. Like I think that a lot of things in my past just molded me to where I am now. So like I can look at my parents and think about the relationship they might have had, and I can look at them as 2 immature kids because now I'm older than both of them when they met me, or even when they had me at their age. But so yeah, that's where I kind of try to be now with it.
Yeah. That's absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So being that you've had the parents that you had and the experiences that you had with them and what you're now creating with you and your husband and your family, trying to just be the change that you want to see, so to speak. Can you describe a future world that you'd like to see for family or co-parenting overall?
Yeah, I would love for everybody to have empathy for their children. We're too, you know, you stay in a child's place, and it's like, yeah, to a degree, they should. There's things that kids shouldn't be involved in, but I think instead of trying to insert our feelings and things that we would do onto our children, suggest it, say why you would do it. You ain't got to. That's just what I would do. You use those kind of things. But I definitely feel like when it comes to parents, more empathy is needed and
Yeah.
understanding.
Yeah, absolutely. So getting ready to wrap up here. What's a message or just an overall advice that you would like to convey to the listeners or the watchers of this?
I would like to convey just 2 things. One is um I'm trying to think of how I can word this. Your choices that you make in life, you know, they can absolutely affect your future. But I would say the best thing in life that you can do, as far as I guess I can't say, I'm trying to think of how I can word this. Okay. So if you are in a low place, I think the best thing that you can do is to find what makes you happy. I had to do that same thing with me. You know, when me and my mom's relationship didn't go right, when my hair fell out, you just have to find that space that makes you happy. If you don't have a support system, you know, go for a walk, get some sun. But otherwise, you know, don't be a problem for people. Don't be a problem for your kids. Just don't be a problem for people. Learn from your mistakes. You know, we all make them, own them, testify about them. And that's pretty much what I would say.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. Stacy, it's been incredible having you on. It's been incredible just interacting. You know, we've been knowing each other for a
Yes.
while now, and just been great to have this conversation with you. Just want to open up the floor. If you have any other last words, definitely feel free to share. Share also how people can follow you on any social medias that you would like. The floor is
Um,
yours.
okay. Well, thank you so much for having me. I've been wanting to come on the show, and that was the time I saw something. I'm like, yes, I can finally come on. But yeah, you can follow me on TikTok. I'm at Ricochet Rose Tarot. That's RIQOCHET. Rose Tarot, TAROT.
Yes, indeed. Guys, thank you so much for watching today. Hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Take care.